Hmm. Are you kidding me? Well, guys, I don't know what's going on with my camera, but it will not let me in to my own show. Maybe this will work. Can you see me now? Hey, guys, how's it going? Hey, Jamie. Hey, Crafted's here. Hey, Crafted, how's it going? Can everybody hear me? Or is the music too loud?
I'm in the green room.
Oh, you're in the green. No, you should be up there.
I'm live. Okay,
yeah.
Wait. Oh yeah. Okay, guys, excuse me. I'm like laying in my bed now because my back hurts. But no, yeah. For a minute there, you weren't there, and then you came back. So you're there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's going on today, but it's one of those days, I think. But yeah, I tried joining yours, and I had like 30 minutes, and then it wouldn't work on my phone. And then,
but you're right. Something popped up on my screen, and it said something yes or no, and I hit yes because I thought like it would let you in. But
no.
I think what I did is I blocked you or something. But maybe when I reset the whole system, it'll work again. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, so I found this audio clip. It's like a phone call, so there's no video to watch. But I think it's interesting because actually, if you listen to it without knowing anything else, it actually sounds like she's being cooperative.
Oh, this is the one in the park.
She is called by the KBI, or the CBI.
Yeah.
CBI. And I think it's the same guy who does the actual in-person interview, Kevin. I can't remember his last name.
Kovac. I know way too much about this case.
Yeah. So I'm
curious.
I don't think people talk about this one very much because it really makes her look not
helpful,
like she's guilty.
Or guilty.
So I'll play it, and then we'll stop and talk about it every so often. But it's kind of interesting.
Today is August 17th, 2018. The time is 10:51 a.m. This is Agent Kevin Kovac from CBI making a phone call to witness in the Watts matter. Nichol Kessinger at 720-656-9605. Texted me last night and said that she recalled some further information after an interview with her on the 16th. So the phone call will be to update whatever information she wants to provide and address a couple other issues that were not addressed during the initial interview. Hi, Nikki. It's Kevin.
Hi.
How are you? Sorry for the delay. I got stuck in a meeting. Obviously, couldn't walk out. So I apologize for taking so long to get back to you.
It's okay.
You at least got a couple hours of sleep last night?
Yes.
You sound a little bit better than yesterday.
I feel a little bit better. Not much, but I feel like sitting down and just talking about all of that with everybody is like it's helping.
Good. Well, I think just keep that up, and again, if you need if I can put you in touch with somebody from a victim advocate to whatever I can help you with, just call and ask.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to need you to do that once we're done talking.
Okay, sure. I can get somebody in touch with you today. And you don't need to tell me about anything. We talked about that yesterday, but it might be something good for you to do, and I can make that happen today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what you texted me about 2 a.m. and said that you remembered some other information. What did you remember?
2 a.m.
Like, just kind of odds and ends. And I'm sure there will be more as this goes on. I interacted with him so much that sometimes, like, I just have to stop and think about how much information that I have gotten from him over the last few months and the last week or so. And, like I said, I never know what's true and what's not anymore.
Sure.
But I figured I'll just give you guys everything I have. And hopefully I don't have to keep calling you back with more, but no promises.
No, that's okay. Please do. Like I told you yesterday, anything that comes to mind that you think is important, I'd like to know. Because you know him better than anybody probably over the last 6 to 8 weeks. So that's anything that he said to you or anything that stands out to you as you're reflecting on all this kind of mess here is important for me to know.
Understood. Couple things. So one, I went back and I tried to find whatever text you were talking about between my friend Charlotte and me with the eHarmony thing, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Her and I text so much though. So if you find it and you show it to me, let me know. But it's just I was on that site, but it was never worth a damn for me. So it wasn't really something that I ever discussed with her. However, when I was going back through.
Hey Rob, I gotta add something.
Okay.
She's not being truthful there, because she said when they were at her house, and they were discussing trying to have a kid, that day to make Chris jealous, she brought up that she opened up her eHarmony account and she might be going on a date with someone to kind of see how he reacted.
Yeah, I know this makes her sound like she might have been a victim and that she probably got victim advocacy and that's how she disappeared so easy.
For sure they
are.
But
I've kind of picked out a few things. Let's look at that little message I just put up there. It's like she's making a plan. She's offering these little bits of information, I think this is one of the first interviews. I think there was one before this brief or something, at least judging by the way they talk. There's a lot of stuff in here that if you listen to it just by itself, it sounds like it's, real, that she is, being helpful. But when you hear everything else, it doesn't sound like that as much.
I had to laugh at Charlotte's comment because I do feel she is way too casual with Kevin during the phone calls, and there is a string of text messages that were leaked online. I understand this was a case that was really important, but I can't imagine texting a detective at 2:00 in the morning unless it was super urgent or unless I had a close connection with that person.
Mm-hmm. So is that what they're talking about? Hopefully you slept better or something.
Yeah.
She texted him in the middle of the night.
Yeah. 2 a.m. What could have been so important to text him and not wait? They obviously had some type of friendship before all this happened, I'm assuming. I don't know.
Well, as far as I know, during this conversation, he hasn't actually got to see anything off of Chris's phone yet or her phone, because he mentions it a little bit later that it takes a day or something.
Oh, yeah, to get everything off of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play some more.
There, I did realize that I had offhandedly mentioned to her a little bit about Chris. I didn't tell her that I was how how deep the rabbit hole went on that, I guess you could say, but it was kind of vague, and she was asking a lot of questions at that point, but it was just like, oh, you know what? I did say something to her.
You guys, I think I just looked at the messages, and there was some like little bit of conversation regarding, he's got kids. There was some conversations about some sexual related stuff, and that was about it. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's it. But I mean, I did mention it to her, and honestly, we've talked since then, and I haven't even mentioned him. And that girl's so wrapped up in everything that's going on in her life. Like, I don't even think she realizes what's going on in the news. Okay. I don't even think she's going to connect the dots. Like, I would be surprised. Like, I honestly am convinced that if I don't say a word about it, I bet you she won't even bring him up. Okay. And even if she did, if I was just like, he's not around anymore in my life, like, I don't even think. I'm not concerned about her. Okay. And the only concern I had there is there seemed like there was some conversation about a boyfriend, and it doesn't seem like, so you were actually talking to her about Chris, not a boyfriend. I went back through those texts. I'm like, what is he talking about? I don't see anything about eHarmony. I mean, and if it's in there, maybe it is, and I just missed it. But it's like, no, I don't know. It's not all that important. It's not all that important. So we can move past that. What else? On Monday night, so a couple things. I told you he had like texted me, and then at the end of the night, he had called, or I had called. I think he called me, but either way, we were on the phone with each other. And like at some point when we were on the phone, he was like, do you want to FaceTime? And I remember I was laying in bed, and I was just like, you know what? Okay, let me turn on the light. And I remember I turned on the light, and we FaceTimed. And when we FaceTimed, he didn't really say much. Like, it was almost kind of awkward. I don't even know why I didn't think of this earlier, but it was very short too. It was super brief. And
like, what's short? What is short? Like a couple of minutes or 30 minutes?
Oh, no, I bet it was only probably like less than 5 minutes. I think it was only like a couple of minutes. Okay. And I think we were like talking a little bit, but he was laying down on a mattress that didn't have any sheets on it. And I was like, okay. So I was thinking like, well, maybe he's in bed. I don't know what's up. But I remember asking him like, where's your sheets, you know? And he's like, oh, I washed them. And then this is the part I don't remember if this sentence right here came in this FaceTime conversation or if it came in a phone conversation prior to the FaceTime conversation. But regardless, this next sentence came on Monday night, and I'm so sorry that I cannot always remember chronological every little detail.
That's okay. It's understandable.
There's so much. But I remember he was saying that he was cleaning the house to try to keep busy, to take his mind off of things. And this was on the phone. And it was kind of late when he was doing it. And I didn't honestly think that much about it originally, because that man is always cleaning. He's a very, very organized, meticulous, clean individual. He's the type of guy that will vacuum his whole house one week, and if there's rooms that don't get used, he'd vacuum again the next week, just because it's part of his routine. Okay. So the fact that he's cleaning to kill time and he'd take his mind off things did not seem like a super red flag to me. Because I was like, okay, well, that's what he does. He just on his days off, he organizes his basement, or he cleans his garage. It's what he does. Okay. And so anyways, so that didn't seem at all the norm for me. But something that just kind of dawned on me last night as he made the comment directly after that. He said, I had to wash the kids' sheets. He was like, they smelled. And I was thinking about that last night, and I'm like, this man keeps that house so clean. That's the cleanest house I've ever seen. And I'm like, this man keeps that house so clean. Why would he?
What'd you say?
that Shanann keeps that house so clean.
It's not Chris?
I think it's both, but I mean, the majority of it, I do think it's Shanann because she was home most of the time, and she admittedly, like, you know, like she'd write her Thrive posts and be like, I vacuumed, I did this. I will say though, Chris did a lot of chores around that house. He did the laundry for them. You know, there's pictures where she's bragging on him. He mowed the lawn. He did the dishes. I don't know. I mean, maybe he did do a lot more than she did, but they were both very, very clean, organized people for sure.
Yeah, somebody mentioned we need to show the leaked messages. I don't have those, but if you had them, I will show them.
Yeah, I gave her my email address. Charlotte, I haven't seen you in any of the live streams before. Are you a newbie? And of course, my mind is going, is this that Charlotte?
What Charlotte?
Her friend Charlotte.
Oh.
Nicole's friend Charlotte. The one she's talking about right now in the phone call.
I don't know what her friend's name is. But
come on, Rob, get with it. Charlotte is her friend who I have seen those text messages. She actually, it's funny, in one of the text messages she calls Chris short, and I'm like, I don't really think he was short, but yeah, they're kind of going back and forth, and she is kind of finally talking about Chris for the first time to someone. Yes, Charlotte. But this Charlotte's using a different last name. But if it is, if it is that Charlotte, we want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Isn't it bizarre that no one has come forward though? I'm on a lot of these Reddit pages, and I have talked privately to people who went to high school with her, but they refused to do an interview.
But did they tell you why? Maybe they got paid off.
In a way, they have told. No, they didn't get paid off. They're scared of her. She's someone they don't want involvement with.
I see. Well, I'm gonna keep.
I mean, the best thing I can say. Someone did tell me she is a mean girl. Not in a sense of like that she was the popular girl, and this, you guys, is coming from a source that went to high school with her. They showed me some evidence to show that they weren't lying to me about this. But they said she was like kind of more of the jockey, tough girl, mean girl, not like a mean girl who makes fun of other girls and bullies them, but more of like the athletic type girl. And that makes sense because the line of work she went into, and it seems like she has more male friends than female friends. That's just what I gather from the small picture we've seen of her.
So I think before we get started, I had made this slideshow, but I didn't have time. It kind of broke a couple times and I had to redo it. So there's no images, but I kind of showed some of this stuff, but these are some things that I found that seem a little bit weird. And I kind of shared some of those.
Can you make it a little bigger, Rob?
I don't think there's any way. Well, actually,
maybe it's just not big for me. Okay. Let me see.
I had this weird problem, like with everything I touched today, nothing worked right. So like, you notice how it says 1 and then it says 1, 2 after that. It's supposed to be, just bullet points, but it wouldn't put a bullet point. It had to put numbers. And there's supposed to be 10 of them, but the second batch wouldn't start over at 10. It had to be, a 1 again. But here, let me try this.
Well, let's go through them. You can like read a piece. I'll read a piece. We can go back and forth if you need a break or something.
Well, I could share my screen. It should be bigger, I think. If I can find.
It's too much to read, though.
Does this make it bigger?
No.
Is it sharing? No?
No, but read it.
Well,
There
it's
we
not
go. There we
really
go.
like it's
A
not
little
really
better.
like my typical I want to read this stuff. It's just like it's like a list of things. Um, and I accidentally closed it, and now I have to find it again. So in the first 30 minutes of this phone call, this is a 30-minute phone call, and it does
Yeah.
sound cooperative. It may reflect some actual concern. However, if you listen to it and you listen to everything else, you get a different kind of feel for this. And, critics argue she might have been trying to steer the investigation or reinforce her as the unknowing girlfriend. Um, Ultimately, this is one tangled mess. She talks about the 111-minute phone call, but if you notice before that, she's got all these specific details, but when she gets to that one long 2-hour phone call, she doesn't know anything.
Yes.
And she picks and chooses what to talk about, and it feels planned to me. So some of
Did
the
say she made a list of all of the things she could remember that Chris told her. So I wonder if she's actually looking at this list she wrote.
What do you mean? Like Nicole did? She wrote a
Yeah,
list?
she told the investigator the day after they met that she sat down and began to write a list. Because she said she spent so much time with him, and she said it just there. She spent so much time with him that they were literally probably inseparable, except for the hours they had to work. So I can't imagine it's hard to recall some of these conversations because they're in the honeymoon phase. They're talking all the time. They have all these new things to share with each other. So she said she had to sit down, and I think she typed it out, this list. I'm shocked that was not in the discovery. I think it would have been helpful if it was in the discovery.
Yeah, it might actually make her look more
Better.
not guilty. But in this 30-minute phone call, she talks about a lot of different things. Like she'll talk about Chris's financial struggles. She talks about their routine conversations. They have everyday conversations, topics ranging from work schedules to meal plans. But if she's lying, it's an oddly elaborate facade, really. I think she is, the best lies are told with some truth. So I don't know. Like she talks about a lot of things and it sounds very specific, like she's maybe not lying. But then she's either completely lying about portions of it or she's just embarrassed to admit the truth, which could be a thing. Like I've said many, many times, just because there are red flags doesn't make a person guilty. It just means they're suspicious. And the other day I heard my 8-year-old say, somebody called him sus at school.
That's cool.
I guess that's the new slang.
It is. It is the new.
Mac,
the
you're
new
being
slang.
sus.
So yours are a little older than my kids. So you're like learning all the cool stuff, Rob. So like maybe you can teach me things to say to like kind of be like.
Well, by the time
cool.
your kids get a little bit older, that slang will probably be over with. To be on to the next one.
Well, they're
But
similar in age, but like it'll make me kind of look like I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah. Well, I asked him. I was like, "Well, are you being suspicious?" And he's like, no." And then, obviously I knew he was, and we laughed about it. It was funny. But yeah, so back to this. So she admits limited knowledge of his family. So you'll hear her talking about very briefly about Shanann and how things are, supposedly, I don't know. She just kind of doesn't talk a lot about the family, but she obviously seems to know a lot because the little bits that she says seem pretty significant to me.
Yeah.
Especially in some of the other calls. Um, like
Oh,
she says Chris is sleeping in the basement. That's illustrating that he's separating from his wife, supposedly. But was Chris actually sleeping in the basement? I don't know. I don't think he said that he was sleeping in the basement.
he
That could
did
have been a
one time, but
legitimate lie.
I think it was more of like not because they were separating, but like because they had a bed in the basement set up because that's where I believe the Rusick family was staying, in the basement with a mattress when they lived there. So they had, like, we kind of have something similar too, like we're in our office here, we have a bed set up if a guest happens to come by or something, just to have it, so I think maybe Chris would, maybe if he wasn't sleeping very well, he went downstairs and slept in the basement, but not necessarily because they weren't getting along. I bet he never told Shanann that's why he was sleeping in the basement, if he did.
Yeah, I don't know that I heard him ever say that he was, but I think there was a TV down there or something, right? Like he would go down there.
Yeah, and I didn't see it in the police cam that I
I didn't
remember.
either,
I
but
don't
I've heard
remember
that.
seeing the bed, but there was a bed down there. So, like, where did the bed go? Now that I think about it, because there was
I
a bed
don't
down
remember
there.
seeing a bed down there either. Like
Like, did he
I
get rid of
thought
the
it was
bed
just
before the
empty.
cops came? Now I feel like
No,
we
but
need to
if
go back
the
and
if
watch the
the Ru-
basement.
if Shanann's family was staying there, they could have gotten something just for them while they was there and then got rid of it. I
But
don't know why they
but
would.
Nicole said he was on the bed, the basement bed, a couple days before this happened. So did he move the bed, or am I missing the bed in the police footage?
Well, here's what I think might have happened. Chris could have said, "Yeah, I'm actually sleeping down in the basement because we're about to split up," and she believed it.
Yeah.
But maybe she never went there and saw a bed. Maybe there
Yeah,
was
that's
no
true
bed.
too. Yeah.
I mean, he could have just lied about that.
But now I kind of like want to go back and look at the police footage in the
I
basement,
know.
and see if there's a bed.
You know what?
A lot of people are talking about that 100-minute, 11-minute phone call. There is a theory out there that Nicole left her phone on and called Chris and left it at the house, and then went over to their house and then went back and got the phone. I don't know.
But why wouldn't she just say that happened?
Yeah, I don't know.
If that's what happened, she would have
they
said that's
checked
what
the
happened
ping
because
on
that's
where that call
something
was
that they could
made.
prove. If
Yeah.
they pull the phone records and actually listen to the call, which they probably could have done if they actually investigated Nicole. But I mean, that's something that they could have verified, that she
Yeah.
forgot the phone and it was just on. But then also the other question is, why would Chris leave his phone on too? For
Well,
2
what
hours?
if they were plotting something or setting up a scene?
Just to make it look like they're not doing anything?
Yeah,
They're
but
just
then
both.
they were actually together doing something. I don't know.
Well,
like
I
prepping
recently,
or going out and digging a hole, Rob.
yeah, if they were digging a hole, they would have dug a lot bigger of a hole than a shallow, 2-foot hole.
Yeah.
If they had plenty of time to do it, it would have been 6 feet deep and nobody would have found it.
Yeah.
I don't think they dug
I'm just
ahead of
throwing
time.
theories out there. I don't think that's
Right. I've heard them many times.
playing
But,
the game.
the phone ping, I actually just saw a bunch of information on the phone pings, not on this particular phone ping, but just watching it. They can tell which way you're facing when you receive a text message or a phone call. And in
Really?
2018, though, the pings didn't always match up. Like you couldn't watch a person travel from point A to point B, but you could see them bouncing back and forth between various towers, and you can kind of see the movement, but it's not black and white. Like a lot of people like to say, oh, but she pinged there at that tower,
Yeah.
and she was right outside of the house. They wouldn't be able to know that in 2018. In 2025, it's different story. Also, different carriers save data differently. So I think
Yeah.
AT&T stores the data in chunks, like hour-long chunks, instead of like minute by minute, like Verizon. So there's a whole bunch of different things that could come into play with
Yeah, I like what
with
Ron said
the
about
ping.
the theory that the tower was down so it pings to the next tower. I mean, think about what shitty luck that would be if that was the case, that she wasn't there, she wasn't involved, but her phone pings in Frederick. Like, yeah, I mean,
Well, if she wasn't there and it pinged in Frederick, that's a pretty big, like, unlucky coincidence.
that's what I'm saying. You got
But
bad luck.
they say, I've heard people talk about this particular case, that could be explained because the more times you like go places, your phone's more easy to jump onto those towers.
Yeah.
But in 2018, the way that they could capture a ping and tell where you were, it wasn't as precise as it is today. They can kind of get a general idea, but you wouldn't see a straight line going down the highway.
Right.
It would be bouncing, sometimes going forward and sometimes backing up because, if that tower over here is too full, it's going to go to the next closest one or the next closest one. And every tower has 10 or 20 different cell phone providers on it too. So some have more priorities than others. And a text message also looks different than a phone call.
Yeah.
But there's like this wedge shape where you can basically see, which direction, they're standing when they make the phone call. It's kind of cool.
I'm kind of curious from you, Rob, and then maybe we go to the comment section on this too. Why does this woman not just go, and she's not going to go on like one of our channels. She's not going to go on YouTube or anything like that. She's going to do something big. If she does, she's going to go on Dr. Phil, or
I don't think she would go on Dr. Phil because Dr. Phil has a, maybe she's involved video out there.
Well, she would go on some bigger platform, but why not just do it? Why not clear your name? Why not speak your piece? Like, I cannot comprehend in my mind why someone would not speak out. I know she did the Denver Post interview, but that was right after it happened. Like, I think if she would speak out, people would let go of this a little more. If it were me personally, I would go take a lie detector test. I would go connect with a TJ and do a voice analysis so that everyone would leave me alone. So, like, what is your thought on that?
My thought is it's terrifying. She knew ahead of time. She's talking to this officer, the CBI agent, and she tells him that she's afraid of what people are going to think about her. She mentions it several times. She's afraid she's going to lose her job. She is afraid of this. And, Kevin keeps bringing up that, oh yeah, we'll get the victims advocacy out there to help you navigate through this and blah, blah, blah. Which I think probably happened, to be honest, because she did disappear too easily, like completely disappeared. And unless, she's got a rich relative, I don't think her parents are that wealthy, to be able to fork over $10,000 a month to keep their stuff off of the internet. But
no, there's no oil money in that family. Like, I've done my own digging with like devices that we used to use in newsrooms to investigate people, background checks, things like that. Dwayne was an electrical engineer, middle class family. They are a divorced family. Like, the safe house a lot of people talk about was a property Dwayne owned, but there are people who have properties that they rent out as a landlord, there's people that rent out properties, that they buy property and they do like Airbnb type stuff. But this was not like a family who, he did not have any FBI connections. He was not, an oil man, or, like there's these people that go down this rabbit hole. But I can't understand why you wouldn't want to come out. And Ron just said, could it be something you're embarrassed about? Like, yeah, I think it's embarrassing to have an affair and have the world know about it. But what's worse, people knowing you had an affair, or people thinking you killed kids?
Yeah, I just think that there's a fear, and if she is innocent, let's just imagine that she actually was 100%. She had no idea none of this was going to happen. Look at what's happened,
Yeah.
since this happened. Look at the amount of like circumstantial stuff that everyone talks about now. And this is if just assuming she is innocent and didn't do any of this stuff. Where did all this stuff come from? And everything that she says in public is going to get picked apart. And then there's going to be 10 more news stories that pop up because of it. So I honestly think it's probably wiser to just hide out, because I don't see any, unless there was a, some way that she could like 100% prove that she didn't do it. And, in this country, we're not supposed to have to prove we're innocent. We're,
Right.
And she kind of has to, because of what happened and how she didn't get investigated. And there's no real clear reason why she didn't get investigated, especially when all these little things keep popping up. So I honestly think it's probably better that because if anything she says is going to get turned around, and it's going to open up like 10, 20 more
cans of
new
worms.
conspiracy theories. Like, I suspected her initially, like I was very sure, but the longer I go about this, I'm a little bit less sure. I'm not, sure either way. But, it's kind of weird that I don't know. I'm not really a wishy-washy kind of person, but it's just not clear to me that she was like as involved as everyone thinks. I think she might feel guilty about something, and that's why she's hiding. But I think it's been so long now that if she came out and told everyone what that was, nobody's going to believe her.
She may even have done something along the lines of like, maybe during that 11-minute phone call, she told Chris, you need to make a decision. You need to do something. And then he did something, but it was like not what she thought he was going to, do. I could see her doing that, but like you said, Rob, I go back and forth on it too myself. I can only go with like the facts that I have at hand. And from my sources, she was investigated by the FBI and by Frederick, and she was cleared. But how do I know that they didn't lie to the people I know who got this info? It's like we talk about Chris in jail telling these other inmates what happened. Well, the inmate may believe him, but that doesn't mean Chris is telling the truth.
That's true. But one thing I was just thinking of. So imagine like last night you talked to somebody on the phone for 2 hours. Yeah. You wake up the next morning and they're on the news wondering where their family is.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean, how are you going to feel? I mean, one of the big red flags for me is how she's so calm about it.
Do you think there was a text? I mean, this is the first text I would show Kevin, is me being like, what the hell, Chris? Like, you're on the news.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that. I don't know. I think we should listen to the rest of this because she does talk about that phone call. But she brushes it off, and Kevin lets her. He's not more curious about it, but I think he's got a plan, and I don't think he saw the naked pictures of her yet. So I don't think it's that, but I think he's got a plan. You don't want to push too hard because you could scare them away, but he does say in the next interview, I am a little suspicious.
Rob, I got to
So-
drop off. My little one just woke up. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. You can come back if you want. All right, guys, I'm going to keep playing this video.
Its sheets smell bad.
And
that,
you think this was Monday night? What time do you think it was Monday night?
Oh God, I don't even know. I almost wish you guys would show me my phone
So
records.
I'm gonna read off your phone calls for Monday and Tuesday, starting.
No, it's on Monday.
Okay,
just
so
tell me Monday night.
Monday night, you guys had. We talked about a phone call yesterday, but you guys had a phone call Monday night. It looks like he called you. It was 48 minutes and 57 seconds. It was at 9:48 p.m. that he called you. So that would take us to about 10:35. And then there's another call on Monday. It's for 51 minutes and 25 seconds. It looks like, I'm not sure looking at this who called who, but it looks like you called him. And that was at 11:09 p.m. That lasted 51 minutes. So that takes us to midnight. And then there's another phone call where he calls you. So we're now into midnight, Tuesday morning. It's a 30-minute phone call that lasts until 12:38 a.m. And then after 12:38 a.m., there's a 2-minute and 44-second phone call that that starts at 1:12 a.m. It's 2 minutes and 44 seconds. So I would almost, this is just me, but I would go get my text messages with him from that night, and I would sync them up to that time frame, because there was texting in between that. So I think what happened is he called me on that first call, and then there's that gap between the first call and the second call. In that gap, that was when we FaceTimed for a few minutes, and that was when I got up out of bed because I was just having trouble sleeping, and I went and did laundry. That's what I did. I went I just put some clothes in the dryer, and then I think I called him back, and then we continued to talk. So that little gap right there between those two big phone calls at the very beginning of the night, yes.
I mean, not the very beginning of the night, but the big ones at the first two. So in between that gap, there's a quick FaceTime.
So do you think that 2 minute and 44 second is the FaceTime?
The one at the very end?
Yeah. Well, so
I don't even think the FaceTime's on there.
Okay,
because the FaceTime occurred in between those two big phone calls. That I do know. Okay. Because it was one big phone call, and then there's a FaceTime, and in the FaceTime short, it's only a few minutes, and then there's probably just a few more minutes. That's probably.
So there's a few more calls on Tuesday. So 1:12 is the 2 minute and 44 second call. That lasts till approximately 1:14, and then there's a long gap until 1:50. So another 45 or 35 minutes, and then there's a 7-minute phone call. That phone call lasts till 1:58 a.m. And then there's a 10-second phone call at 2:07 a.m. followed by. I think he calls you and maybe leaves a voicemail or something, or you don't pick up. So there's a 10-second call, and then directly after that, there's a 10-minute and 24-second phone call.
Okay, so I'm talking about the two at the very beginning of the
two long
really
ones.
Long ones.
And is that when he's talking about the kids' sheets?
With the sheet. Okay, so yes. I will help you line this up. I almost want to just come in there and drop and drag all of my texts to where they were going.
And you know what? We may meet and do that here coming early next week.
Yeah, well, all those phone calls at the very end of the night, that was me freaking out. If you look at my text, a lot of that was I can't sleep, I'm really scared, where's your family? That was me freaking out, and him calling to try to reassure me, or me calling him please talk to me, I'm super scared, where's your family? Those little ones at the very end of the night are me not being able to sleep and trying to get him to talk to me about and just, I guess, making sure everything was okay. So that those like real late ones, and that's why they're all kind of like sporadic, because I'd be up for like an hour, and then I'd fall asleep for like 15 minutes, and then I would like wake up and start stressing again and try to call them back. Like, so that's why there are all these like little sporadic ones throughout the end of the night. But those two big ones.
So yesterday we talked about Tuesday was mainly text messages regarding your confrontation about his wife being pregnant.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
It is, and I mean, I guess those phone calls were on Tuesday morning, but for me, it was still Monday night. So when I was talking to you guys last night, that's how I referred to it, because I hadn't like gone to bed yet.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, that makes sense to me. Okay. So
I guess those technically were on Tuesday, but according to my daily sleep schedule, that was still my Monday night.
Right. So the last phone call with him on Monday, well, it basically starts into Tuesday. It takes you all the way to Tuesday. It actually ends like basically at midnight on Monday, August 31st. So his wife gets home sometime at about 2 o'clock on that morning. So
no, she got home on Sunday.
Pardon me, Sunday. She got home on Sunday. So did you ever talk to him late on Sunday night?
No, we were on the phone, but I mean, I had to let him go and get up and go to work.
That was the 9 to 11 call it was like a 2-hour phone call we talked about yesterday on Sunday night from 9 p.m. to 11.
And that would have been the last time that I talked to him until the work day on Monday.
And that's when he texted you at like 3:45.
No, we talked during work. Remember I told you he like randomly texted me throughout the day at work, but it was just like bullshit conversation.
Okay.
It wasn't like anything of
no substance. Okay. So the most important thing that you've said here is this Monday night phone call, he doesn't have any sheets on the bed, and he said his children's sheets were smelly.
They smelled.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's get back to that, because I feel like you and me are kind of getting off track.
Yep.
So go to that first long phone call on Monday night was, I think, when he told me that. I don't think he told me that in the FaceTime text. I mean, in the FaceTime conversation. I think he told me that in the first conversation, where he was like, their sheets smell. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why? Like, you keep such a clean house. Like, why would your kids' sheets stink? And, like, it just didn't really click.
So I'm going to stop it there for a second. I had something I was going to say a few minutes ago, but I forgot already. Sorry. But this sheet thing, why does she think that this is important? I mean, these are little kids. They're going to have, pee on the bed or who knows what. And I mean, why does she like pick this thing out? Well, the sheets are dirty. He's sleeping on a bed without a sheet. How does she know that if she wasn't there? What if she was there and she saw it and she smelled it? This really does sound like she's trying to be helpful, but if you look at it, there's like some things she knows a lot about and other things she's just like, oh, I don't know. It could be this or that. And she did say that she found out that she was pregnant on the news, but where was that message? These calls were on Tuesday. He said she's pregnant. I think she found out about the pregnancy before it was on the news. But she says she found out when she heard it on the news. There's just a lot of weird things that I think the weirdest thing for me is she's kind of, talking, I don't know if you hear what she says. It's a lot of I, and me. That kind of stands out to me. And then her tone as well. It doesn't sound like she's scared. It doesn't sound like she's afraid that people are going to wonder if she was part of it. Not to me, but she keeps saying she's afraid of those things, but she doesn't sound really scared. It seems more like she's trying to win this guy over so that he won't suspect anything or try to investigate anything any further. That's where where I get my concerns. It doesn't mean she's guilty at all. It just means it's suspicious. It's very suspicious. As my 8-year-old says, it's sus. Nichol is very sus. Yeah.
Very sus.
But yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, I'm trying to plug my phone in. Okay, sorry. I wanted to comment on something too. Do you not think it's weird that I'm sure on Monday she saw what was on the news, right? And that Shanann was pregnant. Why would you continue talking to a guy? Like, right? Wouldn't you think that's weird?
I would think that's weird for sure. I don't know that I wouldn't believe the story I was told, though, because if you assume what she says is true, that she thought that they were separating, she could have thought that she actually left. But I think in this same recording, she's going to talk about, whenever all of her stuff is there still, their car is still there, and she starts to freak out. But she says it, and she doesn't sound freaked out to me. And that's what I pick up on, and that's why I have my doubts about her sincerity. Some people are good liars, and they can tell a good story. And she seems to be picking out a lot of truths to mix in with whatever she doesn't tell people. And that could be part of the lie that she's creating, if there is the lie.
I agree with you too, that I find it weird that she brought up the no sheets in the bed thing, because kids have accidents at any age, honestly, until they're older. So the fact that she almost seemed adamant to be yeah, there weren't sheets on the bed, it kind of brings me back to the interview with Nate and the cop looking at the footage. And remember, Nate was like, he's acting not right, he's acting weird. It's almost like she's bringing up things that I don't know. I don't know if I would bring that up to an investigator unless...
One thought I have on the smelly sheets.
Well, we know why they were
I've never
smelly.
witnessed this, or anything, but they say when an animal dies, it, defecates, So this might suggest if she had been there and she did see this stuff and she smelled things, it could have been, poop, because he actually, strangled his whole entire family while they were still in the house. So his story about taking them to the oil site alive could be a lie.
Well,
but
Rob,
it also...
I was shocked the other day. You said you didn't know he did it twice. He did it twice.
I didn't know that anyone came back to life.
Yeah.
I never,
so
that makes it even harder for me to digest, though. I have a hard time talking about the kids, especially. Even as much as I've talked about them, I really, it just makes me kind of emotional thinking about a kid.
He said that in the CBI interview. He also mentions it in the Sherilyn Cadle book, because he says he felt God, because Chris is religious now. He said that God gave him several opportunities to turn his life around. And the last opportunity was he smothered the girls at the house and they woke back up. And he said they looked like they went through something. And he said they woke back up because that was God giving me an opportunity to right the wrong. I didn't have to go out to the oil fields and do what I did again. You know what I mean? That is crazy.
He could have stopped after one murder, He could have really stopped. He would have went to jail, but, the people who survived would have a chance at a life. but he didn't
Yeah.
stop.
I mean,
He
the fact
kept
that
going.
he did it twice
And then
and
if one
admitted
of
he
them
did
came
it.
back to life, they didn't quite die, and
Yeah.
they started breathing again, and he had to do it again. That's even one more time that he did it,
Yeah.
that he didn't have to do it. It's just not. I don't know what people are thinking about when they murder people. There's other ways to separate yourself from them and start a whole new life. There's hundreds of other ways to do it. It doesn't require murder.
I wish he would have just packed up his stuff and left when they were in North Carolina and go live with Nichol. If that's what you want to do,
her ring,
do it.
Sold it for $5,000 or $6,000 and moved to Mexico and lived there for 6 months. Nobody's going to come looking for him there. But hey, Gerald, I see your comment here that she has classic Freudian slips, and I'd like you to elaborate on that, because I'd like to see them. I think it's an interesting thing to say for sure, but I'd like to see how she actually has these Freudian slips. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start playing the video again.
Did you confront him? Why they?
What's up?
Did you confront him why the sheet smelled, or did you inquire why?
No. I didn't even ask.
Do you know his? I mean, his children were quite young, and I think one of them was still in diapers. Would have that been a potential reason? That one of them had an accident, or did it seem like that's not what he was talking about?
I don't know. I mean, he didn't elaborate.
Okay.
He was just like I said, he always cleans the house, but even if his kids were to be in diapers and have accidents, I just feel like the man keeps his house so clean, and she does too. They both must have to coexist in a house that clean. But I just don't see anything in that house smelling.
Okay. All right.
So that was why I brought that up. Because I was like, whoa. Okay.
Very important. Thanks for remembering that.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm really trying to help you guys. I need you guys to help me too.
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
do this as a team, but just don't.
See, this statement here is also a little suspicious to me. You guys got to help me too.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's. I mean, I don't know. It's coming across like she's very narcissistic. She doesn't care about Chris or his family. She only cares about herself. And, that's a red flag for me as well. But she's telling him, yeah, we're a team. I'm on your side. You need to help me.
So the reason why we can't, I did think about this yesterday, that I would like to sit down with you once we have your text messages and the phone calls, and we can put them in some type of easily looking, that we can sit down and look at them and compare them, and we can kind of get the context of how everything was going that night. I would like to do that with you. Unfortunately, so the download that we got yesterday is going to take multiple days to be analyzed. I probably won't have it back till next week. And then because you guys did have so many text messages, one of my analysts is working on getting those in order, so we can put something together where we can actually sit down and discuss it. But I do think that's something that I want to do in the near future, sometime probably next week.
I mean, I can do that. I don't mind giving you guys my time. I just need you guys to help me with my employer and try.
See, there she goes again. Help me. She doesn't sound scared. Not really.
To just help me brace for this media thing and just try.
So I think your personal mental health is the number one issue. So let me help you with that and get a victim advocate to call you.
Red Black, that's a very good thing to point out. How does she know if she's only been there once or twice? So she was probably there more than twice. I mean, the one time she comes over, the house could be perfect, but if she comes over again, the house is perfect. Yeah, that could have been just a 2-time thing. You don't know somebody is a clean freak unless you've been there several times. Or,
what I always think about too?
She's watching these videos and sees the house is clean. She's watching Shanann's
videos.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I think about too, I think it's really sad to know that, Chris said he went over to her house every night in June So did you lock Dieter up in a crate all the time you were gone? Like, that's screwed up. I mean, I know it's screwed up to do what you did to the kids, but didn't Nichol think like, wow, that's really shitty of you to leave your dog all by itself, you know, or did the dog come over? There's no mention of that, but you would think that Nichol would think that's kind of a crappy thing to do too.
I don't know that she would, based off what she's saying here right now. All the I, and me,
Yeah.
help me, help me, help me. She, she probably didn't care about the dog.
I think that'd be a red
She
flag to
probably
me.
cared about. Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking that would be a red flag to me. Like if you were seeing someone and they were willing to put their dog in a crate for 12 plus hours and just leave them alone, because he would stay the night and he would go home, let the dog out, eat, work out in the basement, and then go right to Nichol's house. And then from Nichol's house, he'd go to work. So that dog was locked up unless it was running around the house, which I doubt. But I mean, that would be a red flag to me. Someone treating their animals like crap.
Well, that could make the house smell too. If the dog's, not being let outside to go to the bathroom, it's got to go somewhere eventually. And dogs will not, poop in their little kennels
Crates,
if they don't have to. But yeah, it says something about both of these people. If she didn't notice that he was caging the dog and he was caging the dog, I mean, he doesn't care and she doesn't care.
Yeah, poor Dieter.
Yeah, I guess technically it's probably not animal cruelty if he's getting food and water, but
it's so cruel though to think about, like, you didn't even have the decency to bring like the dog to Nichol's house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe he did bring the dog there. But you would think she would think something's wrong with that too.
Right.
Like, if he's treating an animal like this, how does he treat his kids, or how would he treat our pet if we have one in the future? Like, just like little things like that.
Well, they're having an affair, and most affairs happen out of selfishness.
Yeah.
She knew Chris was married. Chris knew he was married, and they didn't care. They kept doing it. It's just, they're being selfish. They're getting their selfish little needs out of whatever they're getting from each other. They're getting that, and that's all they care about. They think they're in love. It's the romantic, honeymoon phase or whatever, but it's not that. They're just actually selfish, 100% selfish, and they're using the other person. They're projecting what they want that person to be so that they are, and then they feel justified in doing what they're doing. But eventually they're going to find out they're not the person that they wanted them to be, and they're going to it's going to fizzle out, or it's going to explode, or it's going to end in what happened with Chris. I mean, that's just how it goes, like 90% of the time. I've never heard of a good thing coming from, an affair.
It'd make me even feel better too if Nichol like admitted, like, you know what? Yeah, we stayed at Chris's house a couple times so that the dog didn't have to be alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Red Black says she states to the police her dog like Chris, so surely she would have cared about his dog.
Right. I mean, when I was in college,
why weren't they having doggy play dates?
Right, and go to the park and do things. Like, when I was in college, I had a dog, and I would bring it to guys' houses I would date. Like, I would ask, like, is it cool if I bring my dog? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. And I have friends, like, as older people, like, we don't want to leave our dogs at home, and like, we'll be like, hey, can I bring my dog to the barbecue? And it's like, yeah, sure. All the dogs can go play out back together. I think it's really screwed up that she was just as involved in this neglect of Dieter as Chris was. Like, that says a lot about a person, how you treat animals too.
Yeah. Yeah. Gerald's 2 cents says Chris also kept saying he had to
Yes.
talk her off the ledge. And I only remember one time he mentioned that, and that was in the February interview with CBI. And he says
That
that
always, stuck with me too, because it made me wonder, like, what is she so nervous about? Like, what is she gonna do? It does make me wonder, did they conspire to do something together and he had to calm her down and be like, everything's gonna be okay, it's all fine,
I don't see him as the like take charge plan a murder
No, not
type
at all.
either.
But
But
who
one
knows
thing I
what he
just
was
thought of
like.
that I don't think I've ever thought of before, if she was medicated for, bipolar or something
Yes.
else,
He said she
that
took
could
pills.
explain how she's so calm on the phone.
Yeah.
It
He
really
did
could.
say she took medicine, but he didn't ask her what it was for.
Like if she's on like lithium or something, that'll like make you stay calm, I think. And that could be why there's red flags. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this. I don't know if it's ever been fully confirmed that she had medication.
No,
but-
Chris said she took medicine. He said,
Yeah,
I
but we don't
know
know
what for.
what. I think bipolar they give you lithium.
They can give you. There's
Because-
so much stuff out there on the market, but I also don't believe him. I do think those are topics and conversations you have with people that you're spending a lot of time with. Like, you don't pop your medicine every 30 days that you're together and not say, what kind of medicine are you on? Or look at the medicine bottle. Come on. He knows what kind of medicine she was on. So he's lying
But would he
about that.
care? Well, he might not have cared. He's being very selfish at this time in his life. He might not have cared at all.
I think he cared about her. I think he knew. He just didn't tell detectives what she was on medication for. And he knew at this point all of these conversations with police were recorded. So to protect her, he probably lied and said, oh, I don't know what it was for.
That could be. If she smoked weed, I don't know.
It's legal in Colorado, though, isn't it?
It is, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think weed makes you kill people. It just makes you lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's legal in Colorado. So I think to people out there, it's not even, it's like having a beer. But taking it
I
with
think here in Anchorage, there's
bipolar
a
medicine
weed
is
shop next to
probably
the
not a good
courthouse.
idea.
I didn't hear you. Sorry, I kind of interrupt you.
Oh, we were talking over each other. I said taking that with bipolar medicine is not a good idea, I bet.
Probably not. I think they drank some too.
Yeah.
That's probably also not good with those kinds of meds. But I just wanted to say this again because it's kind of funny. There's actually a weed shop here in Anchorage right next to the courthouse downtown. Like right across the street.
Right next to it.
Courthouse on one corner, the weed shop on the next corner.
Medical is legal there, right?
In Anchorage, it's all legal.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So, like, okay, we've got Michigan, Nevada, Colorado.
There's at least half of the country has got weed legalized.
It's medical here, but I don't know. Gerald, I think it's different for everyone because I have been encouraged to try it for my MS issues. But when I was in Michigan, I tried it, like these gummies, and it made me paranoid. It didn't. So honestly, maybe she did.
Don't eat the gummies.
Maybe she did do something that day, and then she got all paranoid and crazy and called Chris every 5 minutes. And was like, "We're gonna get caught. We're gonna get caught. They know it was us."
Yeah, I don't know. I've been like toying with the idea. It's legal. I might go get something and try out like a weed lollipop or something. But I never do it.
It's pretty mainstream now. I don't know.
I think it still kills brain cells, and I
sure it does. So does alcohol, right? I mean, they're both.
I don't drink alcohol either, but I don't know. Like one of these days, I might go to the weed shop and try it out. But
there's also a theory that they did mushrooms when they went sandboarding.
That is a different kind of drug, and that will mess up your brain permanently. I think mushrooms is probably safer than, LSD, but it still like fries your whole brain, like a whole layer of your brain dies.
I have a hard time seeing Chris do it though. Like, he seems like he would be too scared, but I don't know, maybe she talked him into it. But I also don't have any evidence that they actually did that. It's just speculation.
Well, if they had a weed guy, maybe he would come forward and, or a shroom guy.
No one's talking.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start playing some of this, the rest of this video, so we could at least hear the whole call.
And you can address questions of employment with them. I think they're better suited to answer those questions than I am. So I would ask you to direct questions to them. If they can't answer them, I'll try to help you as best as I can. I think you have a personal decision to make on what you want to do with your employer. I think you're kind of backed into a corner, and you are going to. It's a tough decision. Do you want to inform them of what was going on? But I will tell you that I think that when they started looking at information for us, and I clarified this morning because I didn't do some of the work on this, but there was either text messages or emails between you and Chris that were on company-related phones or on company-related computers that they were privileged to look at. So they already know about you. Okay, so
yeah, I don't know if I'm going to keep my job. I hope that they don't fire me for that. I mean, technically, I'm not an APC employee, and he is, and it was his phone and not mine. So,
well, I don't think that's fire. Like, I don't know labor law. I'll just put it that way. I think that whatever. I mean, people have relationships at work, and you guys were smart enough to stop the stuff. However, you guys did it. Is it an unusual circumstance that two people who got together at their place of employment, this terrible tragedy happened? Yes. Do I think that they are going to do anything to you? I don't think so. I mean, if you read the paper today, you saw they already fired Chris. I mean, as they should, but right.
I'm hoping they're not going to fire me.
Well, and I think you need to head that up. I think if it was me, and this is just this is not a professional opinion, it's a personal opinion, because I'm trying to help you as much as I can. I would reach out to your employer and just say, I want to come in and talk to you, but maybe talk to your EAP people first, and let me get you in touch with a victim advocate, because again, I think your mental health is more important right now than even your employment. I want you to make sure that you're comfortable and safe in everything that's happening, and then make some professional decisions and in regards to your employment. Okay. So let me do that.
And we can. Go ahead.
No, I have a couple more questions that don't relate to any.
So, has there ever been a confirmation that she got fired? Did she actually get fired?
I don't have a confirmation. I have seen the letter that Anadarko sent to Chris in prison, in jail, which is really funny because it was like, in the discovery, they sent, in the discovery, it has a lot of letters sent to Chris, and one of them is from Anadarko, and it was like, we regret to inform you that you are no longer an employee with Anadarko.
Did you notice her tone whenever he mentioned that Chris already got fired? She kind of chuckled, I think.
I didn't hear that.
Let me see where we at.
See if you can go back. And I don't think Chris knew he got fired yet, but I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to try to find it. We were at 2050. I think it was just a few seconds ago, right?
Yeah.
You saw they already fired Chris. I mean,
as they should, but
right.
I'm hoping they're not going to fire me.
Well, and I think
he left.
He left, but she kind of sounds like she's like smiling though on the phone. You know how they say you can hear smiles?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear something there, but maybe it's just my imagination.
He kind of
I think.
Let's try one more time. Where was it? Right about there.
you saw they already fired Chris. I mean,
Well, as they should, but
right.
I'm hoping they're not going to fire me.
Well, and I think you need to head that up. I think if it was me, and this is just this is not a professional opinion, it's a personal opinion, because I'm trying to help you as much as I can. I would reach out to your employer and just say, I want to come and talk to you, but maybe talk to your EAP people first, and let me get you in touch with a victim advocate, because again, I think your mental health is more important right now than even your employment. I want you to make sure that you're comfortable and safe in everything that's happening, and then make some professional decisions and in regards to your employment. Okay. So let me do that.
And we can. Go ahead.
No, I have a couple more questions that don't relate to anything that we just talked about. Is there anything else that you remembered last night?
I believe this is before. I think it was. He confessed on what day? Like the 16th or the 18th, right? This
13th,
is like a couple
14th,
days.
15th.
The 15th. This might have been after then, because for some reason I was thinking it was like the 16th that this call came out. But I'm not really sure. I think he's in custody, but I don't know if he's been arrested yet.
Night that you want to address?
Yeah, a few. So I'm not done yet.
Okay.
And then we can talk about that whole thing too, because I was actually going to see if I could email them today. I was going to email my upper boss, and I was actually going to call her and see and just ask her if she can have. She's Anadarko rep. See if she can have.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, I think you're right, Gerald. This must be after he's been arrested, because they wouldn't have fired him when he's like out there on his porch saying, "Hey, I want my family back," because they probably still think he's innocent. So I think this must have been like on the 16th.
What if he did something like, I don't think they fired him until after, but like wondering if he did something to violate. I don't know. Another thing also, she's contracted. My best guess is to avoid getting sued by her. They probably transferred her to a different company, because I can't imagine her not suing for getting fired. Because
even if you sue, I mean, they could technically fire you for anything, and then if she sues, she would probably settle and get a couple $1,000.
She definitely sued. I bet she did.
But I think they could. I mean, I think somebody mentioned, contractors usually don't have a permanent position and they can be let go for any reason. I think that's kind of pretty normal even here in the US.
I don't know what Colorado is, but yeah, some of the laws are different in different states with that too.
Hey, Heather.
Nashville. Heather, I think CrimeCon is coming to Nashville. Have you heard about that?
You're going to that, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to the Denver one or the Nashville one yet. I gotta look.
Yeah, if you get TJ to like take you out there to that, you should have him fly me from Alaska too. That'd be fun.
No, I got my own press pass I requested.
Oh, I thought you were getting him one too.
I'm trying to get them to have him as a guest speaker, but no, that's separate.
They would want him to be a guest speaker. I can't imagine why they wouldn't.
There's a whole thing he kind of told me about that. I'll tell you privately, but no, I told him, I said, I requested a press pass to go, and I said, do you want to go? And he said, we'll talk about it later. We'll just talk about it later. But anyway, yeah, so I got a press pass. So.
Well, that'll be fun. So you get to get in for free then, or you still have to buy a ticket?
Yeah, I'd be like covering it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. All right.
Schedule sit down with my employer Tasman and schedule sit down with EAP, and I want to get in a room with them all at the same time and just give them kind of a brief synopsis of what's going on and just ask them for help and see what they have to say. Yeah. But I think that's a good plan. Say to them and just ask your opinion on it, because I don't want to give them too much.
You do not need to tell them anything about the investigation or anything about what we discussed. from my standpoint, the investigative pieces that we've talked about and specifically things that relate directly to why something may have happened or time frames or things like that, they don't need to know that. I think.
Oh, I wasn't going to tell them that. I was just going to let them know that I was.
You were in a relationship with
this
him.
Case, and that that I'm like a witness to this case, and that right now it's pretty quiet. But in a few weeks, given how everything goes, it might become kind of a media frenzy. And I was just going to tell him, I didn't commit any crimes, and I'm not in trouble, but
right.
I'm working with the prosecutor to try to help to bring some closure to this horrible thing, and then just tell them, I don't think the media is going to portray a very nice picture of me, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance, and
I think that your projection of whatever is going to happen with the media can be reserved until that time. I know that's like your biggest fear in this, but right now I wouldn't address anything that hasn't happened. I think I would simply tell them, look, I am involved in this case. I'm a witness, and I, whether or not, I think they already know it, and I'm sure Andarko is going to talk with whoever.
I'm sorry, I was looking at my notes here to try to find the timeline here, but
yeah, I want to hear her voice crack again. She got like a frog in her throat when she goes, "I haven't committed a crime."
That was just a couple seconds ago?
Yeah. Probably like 15 seconds ago.
Thing, and then just tell them, I don't think the media is going to portray a very nice picture of me, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance, and
I think that your projection of whatever is going to happen with the media can be reserved until that time. I know that's like your biggest fear in this, but right now I wouldn't address anything that hasn't happened. I think I would simply tell them, look, I am involved in this case. I'm a witness, and I, whether or not, I think they already know it, and I'm sure Andarko is going to talk with whoever your employer is to make them aware of that. And then, hey, I had a relationship with this guy, and that's all they need to know. They don't need to know anything else. And then, you have to protect your employment and your personal well-being. So think of the best way to do that, and just minimal information. You don't have to tell them very much, but I do think you're on the right track of getting ahead of it. But again, I'm not an attorney, especially a labor attorney. So you have to make decisions for yourself on that. But some of the people here in the victim advocate realm may be able to give you some better advice than I.
I was hoping to do that today.
Sure, I will make a phone call.
So did I go back far enough or too far?
No, you didn't, but it's okay. I think we all heard it. She kind of
Well, I didn't. I was looking at my notes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to hear that. So you think it was like a minute before?
No, it was just a few seconds probably before that.
Before where I started it?
Yeah. Probably 10 seconds before where you started it. But it was very noticeable. Her she kind of stumbles up when she's like, I didn't commit a crime or anything.
But she could have been thinking about that time when she was a kid and she went to jail.
You don't want to
about the
what?
Investigation or anything about what we discussed. From my standpoint, the investigative pieces that we've talked about and specifically.
Is it before this?
Yeah, I think so.
I think if it was me, and this is just a personal so.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to keep my job. I hope that they don't fire me for that. Technically, I'm not.
Before this or?
No, here.
Right here? Okay.
An APC employee, and he is, and it was his phone and not mine. So,
well, I don't think that's fire. I don't know labor law. I'll just put it that way. I think that, whatever. People have relationships at work, and you guys were smart enough to stop the stuff. However, you guys did it. Is it an unusual circumstance that two people who got together at their place of employment, this terrible tragedy happened? Yes. Do I think that they are going to do anything to you? I don't think so. I mean, if you read the paper today, you saw they already fired Chris. I mean,
as they should, but
right.
I'm hoping they're not going to fire me.
Well, and I think you need to head that up. I think if it was me, and this is just this is not a professional opinion, it's a personal opinion, because I'm trying to help you as much as I can. I would reach out to your employer and just say, I want to come in and talk to you, but maybe talk to your EAP people first, and let me get you in touch with a victim advocate, because again, I think your mental health is more important right now than even your employment. I want you to make sure that you're comfortable and safe in everything that's happening, and then make some professional decisions and in regards to your employment. Okay. So let me do that.
And go ahead.
No, I have a couple more questions that don't relate to anything that we just talked about. Is there anything else that you remembered last night that you want to address?
Yeah, a few. So I'm not done yet.
Okay.
And then we can talk about that whole thing too, because I was actually going to see if I could email them today. I was going to email my upper boss, and I was actually going to call her and just ask her if she can have, she's Anadarko rep, see if she can have a scheduled sit down with my employer Tasman and schedule sit down with EAP, and I want to get in a room with them all at the same time and just give them kind of a brief synopsis of what's going on and just ask them for help and see what they have to say.
Yeah.
But I was going to
that's a good plan.
Say to them and just ask your opinion on it, because I don't want to give them too much.
You do not need to tell them anything about the investigation or anything about what we discussed. From my standpoint, the investigative pieces that we've talked about, and specifically things that relate directly to why something may have happened, or time frames or things like that, they don't need to know that. I think. Oh,
I wasn't going to tell them that. I was just going to let them know that I was.
You were in a relationship with him.
Case, and that that I'm like a witness to this case, and that right now it's pretty quiet, but in a few weeks, given how everything goes, it might become kind of a media frenzy. And I was just going to tell them, I didn't commit any crimes, and I'm not in trouble, but I'm working with.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah,
she chokes on that. That was it. I think she choked on that, but she has been talking for a while.
Can you go back again, since we have it?
Okay,
just go back one more time.
They don't need to know that. I think.
Oh, I wasn't going to tell them that. I was just going to let them know that I was.
You were in a relationship with him.
Case, and that that I'm like a witness to this case, and that right now it's pretty quiet. But in a few weeks, given how everything goes, it might become kind of a media frenzy. And I was just going to tell them, I didn't commit any crimes, and I'm not in trouble, but I'm working with the prosecutor to try to help to bring some closure to this horrible thing. And then,
yeah, so she definitely kind of chokes on her own words there, but it could have been just coincidence. But there's a lot of weird coincidences in this case.
I'm going to put that through the voice analysis.
That crack in her throat?
The part where she said, I didn't commit a crime.
Well, we know she did, even though I think she was a minor, so it's not public record. Exactly.
Just tell them, I don't think the media is going to portray a very nice picture of me, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance. And
I think that your projection of whatever is going to happen with the media can be reserved until that time. I know that's your biggest fear in this, but right now I would not even I wouldn't address anything that hasn't happened. I think I would simply tell them, look, I am involved in this case. I'm a witness, and I, whether or not, I think they already know it, and I'm sure Anadarko is going to talk with whoever your employer is to make them aware of that. And then, hey, I had a relationship with this guy, and that's all they need to know. They don't need to know anything else. And then, you have to protect your employment and your personal well-being. So think of the best way to do that, and just minimal information. You don't have to tell them very much, but I do think you're on the right track of getting ahead of it. But again, I'm not an attorney. especially a labor attorney. So you have to make decisions for yourself on that. But some of the people here in the victim advocate realm may be able to give you some better advice than I.
I was hoping to do that today.
Sure, I will make a phone call today and
get the ball rolling on this.
Yep.
Because I would like to either go to work on Monday or like
Yep.
figure out what is going
Yeah.
on with like a fresh week and like try to put my
Yep.
life together because I think that will help.
yeah, I think getting back to work and not sitting there and dwelling on this at every moment is going to be very beneficial to you. So I will reach out to those people who handle that today. If I had a name, I'd give it to you. I don't, but I'll see who's available. Okay. So
Okay.
what other?
I want to reach out to them today.
Okay.
But
As soon as we're done here, I'll make that my next priority.
thank you.
What other things is there that you thought of last night?
So I don't know when this phone conversation happened. I think that this was Monday at some point as well. I think it might have even been the same phone conversation as him washing the sheets and everything. I think it might have been the same conversation. He informed me that her friend Nikki's son was at the house when the cops came, and that he was running all over the house and up and down in all the rooms. And at this point, I was like, well, is anything missing? Because I was thinking on Monday that this girl had just left for the night. So I was like, well, maybe if she's staying with Nikki or somebody, maybe she forgot some stuff. So maybe they're sending, they're like sending him in, like, hey, go get a toothbrush or go get this or go get that. Like, I didn't know. And so he's like, yeah, this little kid was like running all over my house and in all the different rooms in the house. And I was like, well, is anything missing? And he was like, well, I think there's some blankets missing from my kids' rooms, but I don't think he took them. I think she did.
No, he took them.
Okay.
He took them?
Yeah. He used them to smother them and a stuffed animal. And then he threw them in the dumpster.
Well, I don't know. I guess he could have done it in the car or the house. Either way, it could have been those blankets.
Well, that's very weird she brought that up now that I think about it. Because that was what he used to smother the girls. It was the Yankees blanket, and then Cece had a stuffy. And it's weird now. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this part again.
So he used those to smother the kids, and then he brought them back to the house?
No, he didn't bring them back. He threw them in the dumpster on his way back.
But they found them in the dumpster.
They didn't find him in the dumpster, but he told them he threw it in the dumpster with his clothes, and then he changed clothes. Because they asked him, why aren't we able to find the blanket and the stuffed animals after he made his confession? And he said, I threw them away in the dumpster with my clothes. This is when he was in Wisconsin. He divulges all the details. But it's weird that Nichol brings up the blankies and the stuffies.
See, one of the things I struggle with is trying to figure out when he's telling the truth and when he's not, because he has said several things several different times. And it's really, I kind of lean towards that first time when he actually confessed was probably the most truthful. But I don't know, when he's a lot more articulate when in the February interview, he can actually talk about everything and he's got an answer for everything. But I don't know if that's because it's true or because he had time to think about it.
Yeah.
And come up with answers because he already been asked these questions.
Well, he did throw the stuffies away and the blanket because they searched for hours on Anadarko property for them. And they're like, Chris, why can't we find this stuff? We want to give it to the Rusick family. And And he said, I threw it away.
I mean,
he said he doesn't remember doing it, but he said he had to have thrown it away because he threw away his clothes that morning in a dumpster. And I think it was a dumpster in their subdivision.
So what would have been on his clothes that he had to throw them away?
He just was paranoid evidence.
So he said, little kid, do you know how old this man was or boy was?
Oh, Nikki's son? I don't know.
Okay.
I think he's like 10 or 12. Like, I think he's yeah, I don't know. I think he's like 10 or 12. Like, old enough to, like, process information and run around house.
Is that the kid we saw in the police?
Yeah, people thought it was a ghost. It's not a ghost.
What?
Wait, no, she has an older teenager, and then she has a kid.
That's the boy that we saw in the video, but he's not 10 years old like she's saying right now.
No, she's talking about the teenage boy.
Okay.
And actually, honestly, Nichol doesn't have kids, Nikki doesn't have kids, so I don't think she really understands like ages, like a normal person who has kids does. But she is talking about the youngest son that Nichol was running around the house. But Heather, I agree with you. Like, this is really sus because this is the first time I really remember Nichol bringing up the blankets. And why are you bringing the blankets up? Why is that something that you even know about or are concerned about them being missing? How do you even know they're missing?
That is a good question that we'll probably never know the answer to.
Right.
Not really.
So he said he thought that the kid didn't take him, but that maybe Shanann had taken him.
Yes.
Oh, wait, I think this is because in the news interview, he says that they didn't take them. So maybe that's why she's talking about the blankets, because she heard it in the news reports.
I don't remember it on the news report. I'm going to have to watch that again.
They wouldn't have released the body cam footage yet, right? So she wouldn't have been able to watch that.
I don't know. I just think it's really weird to bring up the blankets.
I think it is too. I don't know how. I mean, if this is on the 17th and he went on the news, like what, on the 13th?
Yeah. I don't think the body cam was released by then, for sure.
It probably shouldn't have been if it was. I mean,
no,
I don't know how.
I mean, it probably wasn't released for about a week or two.
I mean, well, if it was a week or two, then I guess it could have been released. She could have watched it. But in that, he definitely talks about the stuff is still here. And then they find the ring and the phone and they got all their stuff. But there was no, he did say their blankets are not here.
Right. And he knew that because he knew he took them with him. But why would she be even bringing those blankets up? I don't know. Maybe he brought it up to her on the phone on Monday. Like,
maybe when she wasn't supposedly talking to him about anything,
right.
But maybe they did have a conversation and he said, well, the police came here and we found all their stuff missing.
Their blankets are here.
That's weird. Okay. So Nikki Sonny's like 10 to 12. And I'm just making some notes. Just a sec.
Take your time.
He's noting that red flag right now.
Probably.
That's suspicious. How does she know this?
Okay. What else?
Oh, let me see. I don't know. I feel like I had a list in my head and I almost wrote it down, but I didn't want to put it on paper.
How about this? And I was going to mention this last night, but I think both of us were pretty tired, and we were there for a long time yesterday. So if you have a thought, keep a notepad and a pen and paper with you and write it down, and then that way you don't lose it. That way, and then you can just call me and we can discuss it, and we're done, and then move on. Then you don't have to think about it anymore. Is that sound like a decent idea?
It does.
Okay.
I don't know what else I was going to tell you. When we FaceTime too. So let me go back to that too. So
Okay.
I think all of this was on Monday. So I think both the comments about the blankets and the sheets were on that first phone call on Monday.
Okay.
And then directly after that phone call, there was like a brief FaceTime. And when I FaceTimed him, he was like,
Now, this is the part I was already talking about a second ago. But she's like, yeah, we didn't really talk about anything all these times right after this happened. But I bet you she found out that that the blankets weren't there. So they must be gone.
Yeah, so maybe
He
they
was
did have a
lame.
conversation.
You can go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say in what Heather said, they did kind of canvass the neighborhood because they were trying to get a sense to see if maybe they were taken out of the house out the back. So I know they took the canine unit around the property and around the subdivision to see if they picked up a scent. The dog hit on the dumpster. However, I don't even know why they wouldn't search the dumpster for them, but the dog did alert at the dumpster.
You know, that is odd. They should be looking for those things. And like
No
a trash
shit,
can is
right?
usually, the trash can is the usual place that, people throw
Exactly,
stuff
where
away.
someone would dump something. Like, you're telling me you guys didn't get into that dumpster and take a look around? I mean, no, you wouldn't have found a body, but you would have found their stuffed animals and the blankets.
Yeah, I think police
In
dogs
his
are
clothing.
trained not
Chris,
to dig
why
in
is your
trash
clothing
for no
here?
reason. Yeah, that's very weird that they wouldn't have. Like, I mean, the police are human; they can make mistakes.
Yeah.
Maybe that person was new to the dog and just assumed that the dog wanted to go get in the trash. But trained police dogs don't get
Right.
into the trash.
I mean, or maybe they did look in the dumpster, but they didn't. I mean, unless Chris was there to say, oh, yeah, that's the blanket. Maybe they just thought someone threw a blanket away, right? I don't know.
Did
Because they were
find the
maybe only
blanket?
focusing on a body,
Oh, I
not
see.
clothing or a blanket.
I don't know. If I was a detective, that'd be something I would be looking for, disposed of weapons, clothes, things like that.
But like you just said, the handler that brought the dog out was like an older lady. It may not have been even a detective out there, like a detective knows to look for the right kind of clues. A dog handler probably is just more expertise in the dog, reaction and
Well,
all
you should
that.
know an alert, like if the dog's telling you something, you got to be able to know the cues.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but maybe there wasn't nothing in there.
Well,
Maybe
the
they did
stuffies
look.
were in there and the blankets were in there and his clothing was in there too.
I mean, what if he used a different dumpster though?
But he
Did
was
he
the one
say?
at the house that got hit, but they didn't get the stuff out of it. That's crazy.
Are you talking about the tipped over garbage cans or an actual
No,
dumpster?
there's like an actual dumpster for like construction stuff.
Oh,
Because you remember in the backyard or the back of the subdivision, they were like building a new community.
right.
I
Mhm.
believe it was like a dumpster for that kind of thing. And I think that's another reason it took Chris so long to get back to the house, is he was driving around town trying to find a dumpster to get rid of his clothing and the blankets and the stuffies, which technically he didn't really have to get rid of. He could have just left it in the car and been like, yeah, I always have their stuff in my car.
Here's a weird thought. We assumed that he killed his daughters at the oil site, but you remember when we saw the truck come down the street and we're wondering, why is he coming down from the street?
Yeah.
What if he was throwing away the blankets then, before he started loading up the bodies?
But he used them at the oil site.
Well, he disposes of them there for sure, because that's where they found them. But the timeline of events is not
They didn't
100%.
find him. They never found
What?
it. They never found the
The- the-
blankets.
No, but they found the bodies. But what if he like had the blankets because he smothered them at the house and he wanted to get rid of them? And he's still not knowing where he's going to dispose of the bodies because he didn't plan this as well as he should have. He throws away the blanket.
He did it at the house, and then it didn't work. They woke back up. And then when he put them in the car to go to the oil site, they brought their stuffed animals and blankets with them. And he let them because he was going to use those to do what he did.
Yeah, I have always imagined, he didn't know what he was going to do until he did it when he's driving that far. That's a 45-minute drive. But I've also always wondered why we see him driving down the street before he backs the truck in. If he's just, it looks like he's coming from further away than just, parked on the side of the road in front of his neighbor's house. He's driving, I don't know, maybe he had to turn around, I guess, but I don't know. It just a little weird. Hey, good night, Ron. We're almost done here too, guys. We got just a couple more.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
minutes
to bail
left of
out
this.
too.
On a bed that didn't have any sheets on it.
Okay.
And I remember, and he was like in just like a little wife beater top, and he didn't really say much. It was like he wanted me to talk to him. He's like, I just wanted to see your face. And he like wanted me to talk to him, but he was like kind of quiet. And actually, that was why I got off the phone with him and went and did laundry, and then so I would call him back on the phone, because when we were FaceTiming, it was like kind of weird. I was like, I don't really know where this is going. Like, you're not really having a conversation with me.
So he was just removed. He wasn't very engaged in the conversation.
He was just like really fixated on like me. Like, I bet you if I wouldn't have talked, he would have been okay with it.
Just staring at you?
Yeah. I mean, it was just like,
That's
it was
weird.
really brief too. Like, it was super short, and I was just like, this is not going anywhere. And I remember telling him, like, I will call you back, but let me go do some laundry. So I like got out of bed and went and threw some clothes in the dryer that I had forgot to put in the dryer prior to laying down. And then, I don't know, I think I might have did like one or two other little quick things, and then I got back in bed and then called him back on the phone, and that's when that second long phone call started.
Okay. All right, great. Anything else?
Off the top of my head, I don't really think.
That's all I have, guys. Sorry. I
Okay.
don't know if there's more to that clip, but that's the entire clip that I have found. So, does anybody know what that last second was that she says?
I don't remember. I just
I did
know.
like one or two other little quick things, and then I got back in bed and then called him back on the phone, and that's when that second long phone call started.
Okay. All right, great. Anything else?
Off the top of my head, I don't really think.
That's lame. Oops. But yeah.
Today is August 17th, 2018.
Sorry. Yeah, I did edit the audio just to increase the volume so it's a little bit more clear. Maybe I accidentally cut off the edge, the last 5 seconds. But the call does end like right about there.
I think at that point they just agree that she's going to sit down and make a list of notes, and that's what she did. She did type out like all this stuff, because I remember she reaches out to him again and was like, I've been taking notes.
Yeah, what she says in there, I've got a list in my head.
Yeah.
And then he says, you know what? You should write out a list.
I
That way
can't
you
believe
don't
she didn't
forget
think of
them.
that herself. Like, really? You had to be told to do that?
I don't know. It's a very sus call, if you ask me.
It is a sus. My heart really breaks that they weren't able to get the stuffed animal back. I mean, I don't think anyone would want the blanket because what happened with the blanket. But if they just took a minute to look in the damn dumpster, the stuffy was in there. And the Rusick family probably would have liked to have that to remember their grandkids.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I always have a hard time when I think about the kids and what the amount of fear from somebody that they trust. I can't like think about it too hard because it really like tears me apart every single time. Any like other story, like adults, sometimes that stuff bothers me, but it's not as quick as anything involving a kid. Same thing happens to me when I think about the boys playing catch with their dad with the Chris Coleman case the day before he murders them in their sleep. I just can't imagine. Well, I can imagine. I can actually feel what they feel when they wake up and they're trying to process, what's happening to them. I don't know, just totally.
I'm so desensitized from that kind of thing.
I wish I was.
Well, and sometimes I worry when I do like these lives. I hope I don't seem like cold or I don't know. Like, but I was doing it for so long. You really do get desensitized to it. I try to, have the compassion, but also I don't know. You just do so many stories like this. You kind of, I don't know, like desensitized to it.
Well,
the shock factor goes away.
Whenever I write about true crime, I have to kind of like think about it differently. I think that might be the difference. I actually write out stuff, and I have to process it internally before I can like put it out there. And I don't know, it just really, really gets to me, that especially the children. Like,
I like this comment that Red Black said, if we can pin that. That is something Amy and I talked about when we went live the other day.
This one?
Yes. A lot of things out there, you guys, are being edited and manipulated. And I was telling Amy, I have thousands of cases where I have saved police reports, police videos that I've requested like over my span of career. And one of the videos was the cam footage from Nate that went into discovery. And I have played that video several times, and I do not see the shadow of the body walking that people think is Nichol Kessinger. And I have seen the video where people say it's her, but in the video I got requested, it's not there. Like, I want to see it, but I don't see it. And someone's like, well, maybe they deleted it out. And I'm like, I don't know. But
yeah, I wanted to get the actual footage straight from the, police station, and they want like $2,500.
They do. Yeah.
For everything. I can't afford that. I don't know. I have to get everything basically off the internet. Like, I got these off of, I think Court TV or somebody like had the audio call, stuff like that. Sometimes you can get stuff from the FBI website. Like,
well, there's a lot of agencies that won't charge you either, but I'm going to tell you, Weld County knows that they can make money off this, and they're going to. But there's weird things here, like in Atlanta. I can request a report from Atlanta Police Department, and they don't charge me for it. They don't charge me for mugshots, but then another county may do that. And here's a great example. In Aurora, I requested the mugshot of Nichol Kessinger, and they made me sign a release saying I won't use this for monetization. I won't release it to anyone. I won't. Some agencies do that because they've caught on to, people making content with crime. So some agencies do it, some don't. But I can totally see where Weld County is going to, because they can make money off of this.
Like if you're following the Idaho 4 case, like all
Yeah.
of the documents are on the court's website there that you can
Because
just
they
click
don't want to
on.
even deal with people. They just want you to go get it and leave them alone. Because
Yeah,
think about
it's a
having like
little bit hard to
20,
sort through, but it's
yeah,
all there. All the motions that have been filed, you can look at all of that
yeah.
stuff.
They
I don't
upload
know
it.
that they have like transcripts exactly, but there's a lot of stuff you can find.
Or they
And
put it like out there on their Facebook page with mugshots. But just some counties know they can make money off of it. And someone was laughing. I was like, there's been times I get CDs in the mail of mugshots or like police footage, because they don't like email it to you or whatever. They're very like old school, but each agency is totally different. But yeah, Frederick knows that they can make money off of.
they probably get a lot more money if they just put a link up that you can download from and charge like $5 a link.
That would be a good idea.
They probably get millions of people buying $5 things rather than, 100 buying $2,500 worth of stuff.
But you were like requesting the entire case file, weren't you?
No, I actually asked for the footage
Oh.
from Nate's.
Okay.
The cam footage of the police officer is actually what I asked for, but I also wanted the neighbor's cam footage. And then I guess they assumed that I wanted everything, or that they can only give it to me
because
as
when you
everything.
sent me that, I was like, they think you want the entire case file.
Yeah, I put it on the community tab. I'm not really accepting donations to try to get that. I mean, there's just no way I could afford a $2,500 thing, but it would be nice to look at it, and then we can verify what's photoshopped and not photoshopped on the internet, because
Can you pin Dan's comment? I want to get to that in a second. Or I don't know. What were you saying? Photoshopped and not photoshopped?
Well, they make this content, it's like stand out with these, oh, there's a second person in the driveway. But if you look at all the footage of the driveway from 2018, whenever it was first on the news, there's no second person. There's no like different color shoes or anything like that. They do that, Mary, I think because they want views. They want to give people something new to look at, something else to like, think is a new conspiracy, actually look, there's somebody. But I swear is that driveway footage that really has turned my opinion on whether or not Nicole's involved or not. Because,
of course,
when that first came out, I was like, whoa, that's weird. It's more proof. But then I actually looked at it one time, and it was like a smaller version of the same person. It wasn't like the same shape, just smaller. Like there's no way she has like the same proportions, the proportions aren't going to be the same. Her head and shoulders are different than Chris's heads and shoulders.
And you also have to remember, like with AI, it's so easy to manipulate footage now and photos now. And
well, you see my new footage. This is a new thing. ChatGPT has this thing called Sora, and up until like I'd say a few weeks ago, it would tell you can't do that. That violates our policies. You can't make any realistic looking images, but for whatever reason right now you can. And that's where I came up with I use Sora. It's Sora. It's a ChatGPT, a dish add-on or something that generates pictures. And you can also generate videos. I tried to generate a video of a guy in a hoodie walking through the Idaho forest house. And it was really weird. It gave me like a half a face, like turning, and then the hoodie, like, I don't know, it was like some weird, scary dream that you've ever had where like things just sort of transform into it. You're like, 1 minute I'm standing in the rain, and the next minute, the sun is out and I'm walking through this, and then I'm like swimming. It was exactly like that is what the Sora AI gave me. But I guess it's all about the prompts that you use and how it'll generate it. But like this image that you see here with Chris, well, what we assume is Chris reading a letter, that picture of Nichol Kessinger I photoshopped on myself. It actually just has a a drawing. Well, it looks like a realistic picture, but you can tell it's like digital.
Photoshopped in
Like,
there.
no, it's not Nichol Kessinger, but it's supposed to be somebody writing him a love letter. You know, it looks like a person. Like, this is a realistic looking image that kind of looks like Chris, you know, but before you couldn't do that. And I think the one that I've got for the thumbnail for this video is Nichol Kessinger and Shanann boxing with Chris as the referee. You know, it doesn't really look like them. I haven't been able to get like a photorealistic image of Nichol Kessinger. It always comes out looking completely like somebody else. And then a photorealistic image of Chris Watts comes out with like blue eyes or something weird. You know, I don't know what program people use to get the really detailed deep fake stuff, but I know they exist.
Yeah. And I think you were kind of explaining this too, like, Mary, there are people online who thrive off of, no pun intended, thrive off of this case continuing to be in the spotlight so that they can continue to create content. So I think that is why people manipulate footage. I'm not saying that, you know, all content creators are doing that. Some of them are being sent photos. You know, I get emails all the time from people being like, hey, did you see this? And it may not be them modifying it, but someone else modified it and they saw it, and it's kind of like word of mouth.
Yeah.
Daniel, I wanted to explain, so kind of why some of the news stations have a lot of footage in the first place is if there is a case that needs solving, the best place to put it is out in the media. So they will give the media, we would get press releases all the time, and it would include a mugshot, it would include footage. So for example, in this case, we would get in a press release from the Frederick, Colorado police. They would have Shanann's photos on there. They would have maybe any video evidence, and they were getting it out there to the masses because they needed a case solved. But also, when we talk about some of these other stories, a news station can't afford to spend, like Rob was just showing me, he got a bill that they were trying to bill him like $2,000 for all of the records in this case. A news station, $2,000 is nothing. You know, you're selling ads online, you're selling ads on television. So paying $2,000 for the entire record of a case is like a drop in the bucket, you know? So that's why they're able to profit, because they're spending money to make money, if that kind of makes sense in any way. Common people can profit off of them, off of, you know, any case they want to, but it's like the best way to explain it is you have to invest before you, I guess, make money, if that makes sense. Because some of these agencies require you to pay
Well,
for the
you know,
footage.
the cost, I should point out, is actually supposedly it takes hours of research to find everything and compile everything. So you're actually paying somebody to do some of the work. But I can't
Well, all
imagine
that
that
crap is saved on a file drive for them.
that's what I would think too. But
It
they
is.
explain
It
it
is.
that it costs this much money because we have to have a clerk go down there and look for everything and pull everything out and then compile it into a logical like order, and then we'll send it to you.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I just wanted to kind of clarify to Daniel, like anyone can profit. It's you just see majority of like news stations doing it because they can spend the money to do so. What's that one? I don't know about that one. But also the DA's office wouldn't be the ones to release footage. It would be Weld County Sheriff's Office or Frederick, Colorado Police Department. It kind of depends where the incident happened.
Well, and stuff does get leaked by accident. And, I imagine people steal stuff and then release it that way too.
all the time. Yeah.
I don't think it's always like somebody releases it on purpose. Somebody steals it, releases it, it gets released. Once it's out, it's out. But I know with if you're watching the Idaho 4 case, there's always this talk of everything's redacted right now. Everything's confidential right now. They can't share anything. And then all this stuff keeps coming out, like the 911 call. Is that a tactic that somebody's using to get that kept out of, the case? I don't know, but it could be.
I don't know about what Red Black is talking about. I don't know about this footage about a guy getting breakfast on August 13th. Saying
Rogan must be. Let me see if I can Google it real quick, but I am gonna have to get going, guys.
The Daily Mail. I'll have to look into that. I don't know about that. I know there's footage of Chris at the gas station getting money so that he can pay McKenna on Saturday night. But I don't know about the 13th thing. Maybe we'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I tried to Google search, nothing came up. Doesn't mean it's not true.
Send it to me. Red Black. I haven't seen anything about that. I
wish I could make money off of this content. I haven't made a lot of money. I end up spending more on apps making the content.
Yeah, and sometimes it costs a lot of money for them to have storage systems to be able to save the files, or if you're paying for a CD to be sent to you, and postage is another big thing too. We used to have a sheriff's office that wouldn't give us mugshots unless we actually came down to get the mugshot in person, and they would make it really hard to the point where we'd be like, and we're not going to do this story today because we didn't physically want to go down and get the mugshot.
Yeah, you don't need postage stamp if you can make everything digital.
But they do it sometimes to be difficult.
I think courts, they want to scan everything and put it on a file that rather than a physical file. I mean, if you imagine all of the physical files from the beginning of the, before all the railroads were built in the U.S., everything was in sporadic little places and nothing was kept very well. But as the U.S. has grown, we have bigger cities and we get more filing ways. But everything that was filed before, last year, is going to be in a hard file. And those hard files have to go in boxes. And those boxes have to be stored somewhere. And the next thing you know, you've got these massive places holding files that nobody's ever going to look at again. And I mean, it just seems much easier to keep it on a hard drive in a server, on a server in a server building. It just has millions of little hard drives in it.
And that also takes tech people, and some of these counties can't afford an IT person to make sure that the material is safe. And there's a lot of technology that goes into it that some of these counties can't afford to maintain either.
I would imagine all the files today in the modern time get scanned to a server somewhere.
You would think so, but honestly it's not like that in some counties. I gotta dip out, you guys. It was good to chat.
Yeah, well, it was great having you. You guys make sure to go check out Crafted Evidence Podcast. She's got a channel there. Sometimes she does craft, sometimes she does true crime, sometimes she does both at the same time.
All right, bye guys.
You guys have a good night.